We're still getting a few people coming in. Welcome, come on in. But I think in the interest of time, and it is 2 o'clock, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for those of you who've come. I'm not certain why there aren't more people here, but it may have something to do with the fact that we failed to get it on the calendar with a title and the name of the doctors presenting. That was mostly my fault. We tried to follow up with some things and it fell through, so sorry about that. But so you're the group who've come on faith. On faith that something good is going to happen, something worthwhile is going to be shared, and thank you for coming. This is a small enough group. I mean, in the round tables, I think they're suggesting something to us. We're going to have breakout groups or something. I'm not sure, but I like this cozy number in some respects. So anyway, welcome. It's so good to see you all, and thanks for coming. And I think you're going to enjoy what the topic is, even though we've kept it such a well-kept secret. I want to first introduce the two young doctors, resident physicians, who are presenting today. Dr. Wade Arthur is from Oklahoma. He's from Claremore, Oklahoma. And guess what? His mate up here, Dr. Whitney Davis, who's been out here before, twice before, once before. This is 3 times? This is the 3rd time Whitney's been here. They're both from Claremore, Oklahoma. They both went to Oklahoma State University. They both have their Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine from Oklahoma State, and they're outstanding resident physicians with us. Whitney is also, so Wade is in his first year, so that's the internship year, first year after getting your medical degree. Whitney is in her 3rd year, which is a 3-year residency, so she's into her last year of residency before she begins her practice at the end of this full year. Whitney so she's been here 3 years now. She has excelled in every way we could expect and want, and she was elected by her peers and the faculty to be one of the 3 chief residents this year, which is quite a high honor. At this point in the year, being a chief resident, she's probably saying, yeah, it's an honor, but it's mostly work. It's a lot of work. So being a resident is a really busy time for a rising physician. And then, so it's busy under every circumstance. And then if you become a chief resident, you've got quite a bit of administrative expectations heaped on you on top of that. And she's taken it in stride, and she's done great and made us all proud. Well, I had the idea some time ago that this might be a good topic. How many of you have heard of the blue zones? Have you read the book? Anybody read the book? It's been out a few years. First time I brought it up, I didn't have any takers, but they jumped on it. They had another thing in mind, but liked this one even better. So I was really pleased about that. So let me tell you what I know about the blue zones, and then they're going to tell you a lot more than I know about it. So there's a guy, the author of this book, who his name's Dan Buettner. Buettner, yeah. He's a longtime National Geographic reporter and journalist who became interested in the fact that he recognized that there were pockets of longevity around the world that hadn't been fully studied or understood. And with what you can do statistically and technologically too, he became aware of a type of geographic representation of longevity around the world in a way that you when you project it on the world map, areas that had the highest longevity, the longest livers, turn up blue on the map. And he decided to go study the top 5 or so zones, and that's what they're going to tell us about. It's really fascinating because what he got really interested in was the commonality of the things that, so these places would have more people over 100 and healthy than any place else on the planet. And he found out the diet was very similar, even though these were very far-flung places from each other. The diet was very similar. The social mores, the lifestyles of people living in these geographic areas are very similar. And so it's really a fascinating thing. I heard him speak at one of my national professional conferences. Oh, what year was the book written? Probably it's been 7 years or 8, or could be more. I think I heard him the year after it was published, and it was just fascinating. So I was really so glad that Whitney and Wade wanted to present this, and I think you'll find it. I'm going to learn a lot, I know, and I think we'll all find it interesting and helpful. Okay, take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Wright, and welcome to everyone who's shown up and who's watching on television today. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So this is the Blue Zones. Here's a picture of the book. This is by Dan Buettner, and he's a researcher that traveled the world to meet some of the planet's longest-lived people. And he learned some very powerful but very simple lessons that could put all of us on the path to a longer life. So he's identified these 5 areas of the world, the so-called blue zones. And these are communities where common elements of lifestyle, diet, and outlook have led to an amazing quality and quantity of life. And I just threw in this quote here because I really liked it. But drink without getting drunk, love without suffering jealousy, eat without overindulging, never argue, and once in a while, with great discretion, misbehave.
One thing that I just wanted to point out, we'll only talk about 4 of the zones today. That's just because he had only identified 4 of the zones when he wrote the book. So that we will talk about the 4 zones that he talks about in the book. Since publishing the book, he has identified a 5th blue zone, and that one is in Greece. So if you look it up online or go to the Blue Zones website, you'll actually see 5 there, but we'll only talk about 4 today. So.
Yeah, and then we'll also, at the very end, we'll kind of talk about your own blue zone. So we'll jump right into the first blue zone, which is the Sardinian blue zone. So let me just give you guys the bad news first. So right now, only 1 in 4,000 Americans live to be 100 years old. So that's only about 0.025%. The good news is that those living to 100 or older are the fastest growing demographic across the planet, and especially in the Western areas like the USA or Europe. So while living extremely long lives is far from common practice, we're getting there. So one of the first blue zones that was discovered was Sardinia, which is a small island off of the coast of Italy. And on average, 1 in 600 humans live to be 100 or older there. So one of the questions they had is it just in the genes? And they found that it's not. According to a Danish study, which looked at over 2,500 twins, genes only accounted for about 25% of how old you become. And what they found is that what really matters is your behavior. So that's because no matter how great your genes are, you age every single day. And living a long life is going to be based on slowing down that aging process instead of accelerating it. And that's why your lifestyle has the most significant effect. So the Sardinians, for example, they live a very natural life. They're outside a lot. They move around naturally with their feet. and they eat a very natural Mediterranean diet. So walking every day will provide all of the cardiovascular benefits that you might expect, and it has a positive effect on muscle and bone metabolism without the joint pounding of running triathlons or marathons or anything just outrageous like that. So, and next we'll kind of go through their diet. So the classic Sardinian diet consists of whole grain bread, beans, garden vegetables, fruits, and in some parts of the island, mastic oil. So mastic oil is sometimes used in place of olive oil, and it's known for its antibacterial and anti-mutagenic properties. They also traditionally eat pecorino cheese, which is made from grass-fed sheep, whose cheese is high in omega-3 fatty acids. Meat is largely reserved for Sundays and special occasions. Another thing that's thought to be an elixir of health is goat's milk. A glass of goat's milk contains components that might help protect against inflammatory disease, such as heart disease and Alzheimer's disease. Last but not least, wine in moderation has shown to reduce stress. It's also high in flavonoids. Brightly colored fruits and vegetables and dark chocolate also contain flavonoids, which is associated with a reduced incidence of certain cancers and heart disease.
Okay.
Mastic oil. Yeah, mastic. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I read that they use it in place of olive oil. So I'm assuming it's similar.
So the second blue zone that the book talks about is in Okinawa. Okinawa is located in the East China Sea. It's between Taiwan and just right off of the coast of Japan's mainland is where it's located. It's composes of about 150 islands that are right there in between Taiwan and Japan. And I believe they have a pretty strong Japanese culture where they're at. It's known for its tropical climate. It's got really broad beaches, coral reefs, and it's also got a lot of World War II sites, which is pretty interesting. One thing Dr. Davis and I both recognized when we were going through this is all of these places seem to be located in really temperate climates, which is interesting. And you can see from the picture, we kind of joked and said it might be a little bit easier to live to be 100 to 105 years old if I lived in a place that looked like that too. But anyway, living somewhere like that gives you a lot of opportunity to get out into the sun, which helps you get vitamin D. And vitamin D is produced by the body when your body is exposed to sunlight, and it promotes stronger bones and healthier bodies. So spending time each day allows seniors to have optimal vitamin D levels year-round. And it actually don't have to be in the sun for as long as you would expect to get optimal vitamin D levels. Mr. Buettner recommends, from what he sees from a lot of these cultures, is only about 15 to 20 minutes is really needed to get optimal vitamin D and sun exposure each day. Yes. I'm not sure what the exact dose from the sun specifically itself is. So I don't know how that would translate into the capsule form that you could pick up at Walgreens or CVS. Would you know, Dr. Wright? Okinawans are also just very active in general. They walk across their islands, and they love to garden, and most of them are gardeners, which allows them to get their daily physical activity as well as their exposure to sunlight and things like that. But it helps keep them active as well. Another thing the Okinawa culture does is their households have very little furniture. So most of the time they will be sitting on the floors, and they gather as families to eat meals on what they call tatami mats on the floor, which allows them to continue their flexibility into their older age, as well as exercise from just slightly inconveniencing themselves from what we would think, what we live our lives, just from standing from the seated position on the floor back to standing, rather from your everyday just like recliner or couch to standing. One interesting fact that he mentions in the book is almost every one of the Okinawans, centenarians, or people who had reached 100 years old, had once owned or grew a garden. So it's kind of interesting seeing that play between gardening and the health and longevity. It's a source of physical activity that exercises the body and also provides a wide range of motions. If you think about it, you're shoveling and picking. It allows you to, move joints and muscles in different ways that you wouldn't in just your everyday life. And it also is a great way to reduce stress, and you get fresh vegetables for your diet out of it too. So that's awesome. Their diet is high. They eat a lot of sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes are something practical that we can get here in the United States pretty frequently and easily. They are a great source of vitamin and minerals, and they're high in vitamin C, vitamin A, fiber, and folic acid. So one, if I can get the page to turn. Ikigai, if I'm pronouncing that right. I am not Japanese, so I don't know. It's a common thought process in Japanese culture. It translates roughly to a couple different things in English. Some of the English translations can be the thought of reason for being, or another way that it could be translated is a meaning for life, or something that makes life worth living. So it's just kind of this thought process that most people in Okinawa have. They embrace an ikigai, or something that gives them a reason to be. Older Okinawans can readily articulate the reason why they get up in the morning. And in Japanese culture, it is thought that having the feeling of ikigai could lead to better cardiovascular health overall. The partial thinking behind this is having that reason to get up and drive in the morning overall leads to a person being more active, therefore leading to better cardiovascular health. Because of this idea of ikigai, Okinawans they often have less desire to retire and often work into a lot older ages than what we see here in the United States. They really pick what they enjoy doing, and they continue doing that job for as long as they're healthy. This purpose-imbued lives gives them clear roles and the feeling of being needed well into their 100s. This isn't from the book itself. I just got this off the internet, but I think it gives a good representation of kind of ikigai. I think the least important, obviously, would be what you can get paid for. I mean, that obviously applies to it. But I think if you can find something that you're good at, that other people needs, that you love doing, that's really kind of the center of ikigai and what that means. And that can be different for everyone. It can be something as simple as teaching or gardening or making bouquets. Just kind of whatever that you're good at that can help provide in other people's lives. So there actually is a blue zone in the United States. It's located in Southern California, just 60 miles east of Los Angeles. It's a small community known as Loma Linda. The majority of the people in Loma Linda are members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And as I kind of talk about it, you'll kind of see how that plays a role into their lifestyle. So we can get some lessons from Loma Linda. Some things that you can do pretty easily is drink plenty of water. Dr. Wright is big on water. As you've probably heard him talk about it. But as you age, the need and feeling of thirst declines. So you actually do not feel as thirsty as you get older, but your body is still requiring just as much water as you would previously. So it's important to consciously try to drink about 1 quart to 1.5 quarts of water a day. Another thing they do is continually get regular exercise. Their diet has a lot of nuts. And then because they're all members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they spend a lot of time with like-minded individuals. So, like I said, our bodies are made up of 60% water. And the Mayo Clinic suggests that we get at least 8 cups of water a day to replace the body just that our body naturally uses in a day. So that doesn't include if you're doing exercising or anything like that. The Mayo Clinic actually recommends adding 1 to 2 glasses of water if you're doing moderate exercise each day, and adding 2 to 3 cups of water if you're doing strenuous exercise each day. So that baseline kind of quart to 8 cups of water that we think of is just a normal day of what our body uses throughout the day. Getting enough water is a big part in protecting our kidneys. And it also has been suggested in some other countries that it actually may reduce the risk of having a fatal heart attack. Not the risk of having a heart attack in general, but that heart attack is severe enough to lead to death. The reason thinking behind that is the more water that we drink, our blood becomes a little bit less thick. Therefore, when we have the heart attack, it's an easier time for our blood to still get to the muscle of our heart during an active heart attack. If we're dehydrated, our blood becomes a little bit thicker or more viscous, and then it becomes harder to move through our arteries in the event of a heart attack and could lead to more damage. That's not been completely proven just yet, but that's kind of the science thinking behind how water could potentially save your life in the event of a heart attack. The Seventh-day Adventists are not marathon runners. They do not exercise strenuously. But they center their life on 4 main types of exercise, being endurance, strength, flexibility, and balance. They practice endurance such as walking, hiking, water aerobics, and then they practice strength building through just lifting weights, which can help reduce the risk of osteoporosis. And then they stretch each day to help keep themselves limber, and as we age can also reduce the chance of having a dangerous fall. And then they also practice balance through yoga as well, which also helps for the falls. Routine exercise also leads to lower BMIs. Americans with, this is a study done in America, and Americans with lower BMIs statistically have lower blood pressure, they have lower cholesterol, and they have less heart disease than the average American. The Adventist diet is a large amount of nuts. They do not claim that any particular nut is better than any other one. They just recommend about a couple servings of nuts each week, 2 to 3 servings of nuts a week. Nuts are high in omega-3 fatty acids and play an important role in helping maintain a healthy immune, cardiovascular, and respiratory system. And then the last point is the Seventh-day Adventists are really good about embracing that Japanese thing of ikigai and finding like-minded individuals when they actually celebrate the Sabbath every Sunday for 24 hours, giving them more time to communicate with their friends and spend time with family and just kind of relax and take some stress off of their day and focus on family and God. I believe it is around 2 to 4 ounces, so about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of nuts. I'm not sure if all of them were, but she asked if all of the people living over 100 in Loma Linda were all Seventh-day Adventists. And I think that the significant amount of them were. I'm not sure if they could say, yes, all of them were, but I think that it was important enough that Dan Buettner put it in his book that it was populated among the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda. So most of the Loma Linda discussion in the book centered around the Seventh-day Adventists.
Okay, so the next blue zone is in Costa Rica. So the Nicoyan Peninsula. So there is a high number of those over 100 in excellent health. It's also one of the happiest places in Central America. Costa Ricans report a high level of satisfaction, and they also have the highest literacy rate in Latin America. So the those over 100 in the Nicoyan Peninsula, they have a strong sense of purpose. They feel needed and want to contribute to a greater good. They keep hard at work and enjoy physical activity all of their lives. They also find joy in everyday physical chores. Something interesting about the Nicoya water is that it has the country's highest calcium content. So this may explain the lower rates of heart disease as well as stronger bones and fewer hip fractures. Also, eating fewer calories appears to be one of the surest ways to add years to your life. And Nicoyans eat a small dinner every evening. They tend to live with their families, and their children or grandchildren provide support and a sense of purpose and belonging. They get frequent visits from neighbors. They also know how to listen, laugh, and appreciate what they have. So they also regularly take in sunshine, which is probably based on the location. So vitamin D, they get a lot of vitamin D from the sunlight, and vitamin D deficiency is associated with a host of problems, as we talked about, such as osteoporosis and heart disease. So this regular sun exposure, about 15 minutes on the arms and legs, can help give you enough of this nutrient. But from what Dr. Wright said, you may need to supplement to. Okay, and so something interesting about the Costa Rican blue zone is the Korotega Factor. And so this refers to the Korotega Indians who thrived in Nicoya before the Spanish arrived in 1522. So they lived in simple thatched hut communities ringed by vegetable gardens, fruit trees, and farther out milpas, which are fields of corn and beans. And they grew maize and many kind of beans there. They were mostly subsistence farmers, but they also depended on wild game and fish. And like other Mesoamerican cultures, the Korotega were religious and apparently lived very low-stress lives. And in Nicoya, their influence is still alive. Their traditional diet of fortified maize and beans may be the best nutritional combination of longevity the world has ever seen.
Okay, so what does that mean for us in Northwest Arkansas that does not live on beaches in sunny Southern California or Costa Rica? So we've talked about like a little bit about what makes these blue zones remarkable, but what can we do? And these are the 9 strategies that the book gives for improving your own blue zone. So you can read them up there. I won't go through them all now because we'll go through each 9 individually to kind of give some examples on what is called the Power 9 strategies for improving your blue zone for longevity and longer life. Strategy 1 is move naturally. You can be active without having to think about it. You can do that by inconveniencing yourself. Just small things like getting rid of your remote control to your TV. That's not a big thing, but over time, getting up each time you want to change the channel or turn the volume up and down on your TV has you get up and stand up, sit down, walk, and just get you out of the chair and moving. You can also do things like get rid of your electric can opener. Use a manual can opener so that you're using forearm and increasing forearm strength and getting exercise that way. You can use things like a rake, broom, or snow shovel rather than just your everyday lifestyle chores that make life a little bit easier living. So those are just some small things that you can do to increase the amount of moving that you do in your day-to-day life. Then have fun. Make a list of activities that you enjoy doing. Moving and working out and exercise shouldn't be something that you don't enjoy. It shouldn't be a task. You should enjoy doing it. So do you like going for walks or hikes Or do you like going to water aerobics and spending time in the pool? Do you like going to the gym, or do you like riding a bike? You don't have to do all of those things. Just finding something that you enjoy and doing it consistently goes a very long way. Walking is something that almost all people that live to be 100 years did across all the blue zones. It's easy on your joints. It can relieve stress and provides cardiovascular health. The second thing that was frequent across all of the cultures was gardening. We talked about this a little bit already, but just the full range of motion exercises that you have to do daily while gardening in the summer can also relieve stress. And then yoga. Yoga can improve your balance and decrease your risk of falls. It's most beneficial practicing yoga at least twice weekly is what the recommendations are. It seems like a lot, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. Just twice a week to get an improvement on your balance. Strategy number 2 is the 80% rule. This is my least favorite rule. It's stop eating when your stomachs are 80% full. So that's the 80%. And a couple ways to do this is one thing that they recommend is what they say serve and store. And doing this, you can actually prep and create all of your food and then put it on your plate. And before you walk over to sit down and eat, go ahead and package everything up and put it in your refrigerator. And that prevents people from going back and forth and eating multiple plates. It's actually shown that people who do that end up eating on average 14% less than people who don't serve and store. Even if they overfill their plate the first time, they still end up eating less because they're not going back and forth for multiple trips. Another thing is tricking your mind into thinking that the food is bigger than it is. A research study gave people a quarter-pound hamburger that was grilled to look like a half-pound hamburger. I believe they just kind of stretched it out, and then they put a lot more vegetables on the burger to make it look bigger. And they compared those two people, and interestingly enough, the people who ate the smaller burger, the quarter-pound burger that was looked bigger than the actual quarter-pound burger, ate less and suggested that they felt fuller 30 minutes later than the people who actually ate the half-pound burger or the non-stretched out quarter-pound burger. And then smaller vessels. This isn't your arteries and veins. This is the vessels that we use to get food from our kitchen into our body. So smaller drinking glasses, smaller plates, things like that allow us to put less on our plate and it still look full, which also tricks our mind into thinking that we're getting more than we are. And then finally, eating slowly. Eating slowly allows your body to listen to bodily cues for when you're no longer hungry. And then also eating early. Nicoyans, Okinawans, and Sardinians all eat their biggest meal at midday at lunch. And Seventh-day Adventists actually practice eating the largest meal at breakfast. So all 4 blue zones mentioned in the book did not have their largest meal at the day at supper. They all had it at lunchtime or breakfast. Strategy number 3 is plant slant, or just eating more fruits and vegetables. It is recommended that you get 4 to 6 servings of vegetables daily. Blue zones try to eat at least 2 vegetables with each meal. So that's where they get their 6 servings, is they have 2 servings of vegetables for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then limiting the intake of meat. Whitney touched on it, or Dr. Davis touched on it in the Sardinian blue zone, that they only eat meats on Sundays and on special occasions. And it is recommended that you limit meat servings to twice weekly. And then you should also limit the size of your meat intake as well. So not just less frequently, but less amount when you eat the meat. It is recommended that the cornerstone of most of these diets are beans. Almost every Blue Zone diet is high in beans, and they often make them the centerpiece of their lunches and dinners. And then once again, nuts. This one actually recommends eating the nuts every day. And it doesn't matter what kind of nuts, like I said. All nuts can increase your life expectancy. But I think it was the Seventh-day Adventists that say just 2 to 3 times a week. But really, you can eat nuts every day as well. Yes, woohoo. Strategy number 4 is the grapes of life. But this one is kind of tricky, especially as a doctor. It's not easy to tell someone that they should drink more alcohol. I took the longevity quiz on Blue Zones, and that was one of the suggestions that they told me to live longer was to drink more. I don't buy it. But it is something that is common across the Blue Zones. And it is only red wine, and it is recommended red wine 1 serving a day. Anything more than 1 serving of red wine a day can actually lead to the negative effects from alcohol rather than the potential positive effects for it. So this one is a very fine line, but if it is one that you do enjoy, the Sardinians drink a dark red wine called Cannonau. But it's not as common in the United States. So any dark red wine would be similar to what they drink in Italy. And then happy hour. This is practiced in a lot of the cultures where they have a glass of wine and maybe an appetizer. And then you can mix in some of those nuts about an hour to 30 minutes prior to supper. And then the last one, take it easy. I kind of already touched on. If you drink more than the 1 glass per day, it can lead to the negative side effects from alcohol. Yes, the typical like wine serving amount. It might 5 ounces.
Okay. So strategy 5 is purpose now. So this is just kind of creating our purpose. So craft a personal mission statement. Start by answering the question in a single memorable sentence. Why do you get up in the morning? Consider what you are passionate about. How do you enjoy using your talents? What is important to you? etc. Stuff like that. So, and then find yourself a partner. It can be anyone, a friend, family member, spouse, colleague. Find someone who you can communicate your life purpose with and develop a plan to realize it. It just needs to be someone who can be honest with you and enjoys helping you plan your success. And then learn something new. Take up a musical instrument or learn a language. Both are amongst the most powerful things you can do to preserve your mental sharpness. Strategy 6 is downshift. So reducing the noise. So minimize your time spent with television, radio, the internet. This can help reduce the amount of oral clutter. So try to rid your house of as many TVs or radios as possible, or just limit them all to one room. Most electronic entertainment, it just feeds the mind chatter, and it works counter to the notion of slowing down. Be early, so be 15 minutes early to every appointment you have. This one practice minimizes the stress that arises from traffic or getting lost or underestimating travel time. It allows you to slow down and focus before a meeting or event. And create a space in your home that is quiet. It's not too cold, not too hot, not too dark, not too light. And establish a regular meditation schedule. And try to meditate every day no matter what, but also not stressing you out if you fail to do so. You could start with 10 minutes a day and try to meditate with others occasionally. Strategy 7 is belong. So this is just kind of the idea of trying to get more involved, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a religious community, but just any activity that you find interesting or anything you're interested in at all. Just try to take a more active role in an organization. And I guess the longevity effect of this is not necessarily how it's not necessarily if you attend, but kind of how you attend. So being more involved in things like volunteering, it might actually enhance your well-being and possibly reduce mortality. And I like this just go. So schedule an hour out of the week where you pick something that you're interested in, that you want to try or you've wanted to do, and just go. Just don't even think about it. Just go with an open mind and try something new. So strategy 8 is loved ones first. So something they recommended was get closer. So consider living in a smaller space to create an environment of togetherness. A large spread out house makes it easier for family members to segment themselves from the group. And it's easier for families to spend time together and bond in a smaller home. So if you live in a larger area, establish one room where you might gather daily together with friends or with family. Establishing rituals. So children thrive on rituals and they enjoy the repetition. And so not just children, but I think all of us do. So make one family meal a day sacred, or establish a tradition for family vacation, or make a point to purposefully celebrate holidays together. And then something else they recommended was creating a family shrine. So in the Okinawan culture, this is one of the, a shrine is actually in everyone's home. It's displayed in the best room in the house. And it showcases pictures of loved ones and their important possessions. And it kind of serves as a constant reminder that we're not little islands off on our own, but that we're part of something bigger. And we could always pick a wall to display pictures of our parents and our children, or take annual family pictures together and display them in progression, and just a reminder that we're a part of something bigger. And put our family first. Invest time and energy into your children, into your spouse, and the rest of your family members. And the last and the final strategy is right tribe. So identifying your inner circle. Know the people who reinforce the right habits, people who understand or live by the Blue Zone secrets, and go through your address book or your contact list of friends and think about which ones support healthy habits and challenge you mentally, and which ones you can truly rely on in case of need. Be likable. Of the group of those over 100 that were interviewed for this book, there wasn't a grump in the bunch. So some people are born popular, but people are naturally drawn to them. And likable older people are more likely to have a social network, frequent visitors, and good caregivers. And they seem to experience less stress. And the final thing is to create time together. So spend at least 30 minutes a day with members of your inner circle. Establish a regular time to meet or share a meal together, or take a daily walk together. Building a strong friendship requires some effort, but it is an investment that can pay back handsomely in added years. So if you guys have any questions, you can also go to bluezones.com. They have so many recommendations on there, so you can learn a lot more about the book, and just you can take a longevity assessment, and it'll give you tips on how to improve your golden years.
They also have recipes and all kinds of stuff on there for ways that the cultures in the book live and how their diets are set up.
Idea about eating nuts. I was eating lots of nuts, but unfortunately they were salted nuts. And I ended up with swollen ankles, so people should be cautious.
That's a really good point. The nuts are good, too much salt isn't good. So be careful that way. Well, I think that was an excellent presentation, and very, very interesting. Thanks. Just on this subject, and I think broadly speaking, the subject is how to live long and live well. And it happens to be in some geographic areas they seem to be doing it pretty well. I think Butterfield Trail does it pretty well. I think you guys do it pretty well. And so, it caused me to think, what are these things that they're talking about exist here or you have access to because you're here, or that over time Butterfield and the community here has identified things that are healthy that we want to have available. Yes. No. You know, the beans, but it's significant because, you know, one of the common things about diet here is, you know, you keep hearing less meat. It's not because you don't need protein, but it's hard to get extra meat without getting extra fat, which isn't good. But it really is animal fat that's the problem. And getting protein without animal fat, beans is a really good source. Yes. Mm. Really? I'm not aware that it's so, but I can't say that I know that with certainty. It's the first time I've heard that. Mm. So even now, there's very little beans. That's the point, huh? Wow. So you're saying other non-leafy vegetables, not so much, huh? Is that it? They have a food committee, don't they? They- Well, I'll weigh in on it too, because I think the points were just. I'm sorry. That. Yeah, I had a longtime nurse uh, who's deceased now, but who I love dearly, and she used to say, now, for me and for her, she would say, now, if you're looking for somebody with a little influence, we've got about as little as anybody. And I'm reminded of that every now and then, but that I still ought to weigh in on it. Yes. Eating organic. So it depends on the definition of it. Do y'all want to tackle this? Organic? Here he comes. Okay.
I think what Dr. Wright was going to get into is the definition of organic used by like the Food and Drug Administration and an FDA. It's not really regulated. So similar to a lot of the supplements and stuff that can be sold, it's not regulated as well as some of the stuff as other entities. So you could get anything that is labeled organic that may have been made the exact same way as something that wasn't made organic, but their farm went through the process to be called an organic farm, so they're able to slap that sticker on the product that they sell. And you may not be getting that much different of a product. I think if you consider organic something that is, you can buy like fresh produce from Walmart or anything like that, just in the fresh produce aisle, or something that you've grown in a garden or eat locally at a farmer's market, then I would say absolutely organic being that, those fresh vegetables compared to anything processed that you would buy frozen or that you would buy in like meals that you take out or fast food, then yes. But I wouldn't say that you necessarily need to go to like Whole Foods or buy something that's like slapped with an organic sticker on the side of it.
Hey, I want to just right quick in the time we have left, flip through these 9 strategy slides and tell me what is done here that might be a positive contributor to this kind of thing. So here we're talking about moving naturally. You can plant a garden here. That's good. Obviously, the activities, the movement, Jennifer, I don't think any place does a better job than she does with that kind of thing. I'm sorry? Yes. I'm sorry? Yeah. Be active without having to think about it. That's a great notion. You can certainly do yoga here. Okay, flip to the next one. Your 80% rule, Dr. Arthur. Eat early, eat more slowly. These are all individual things, really, that would be choices. Go to the next one. So, 6 vegetable servings daily. That's what we were just talking about, really. Okay. Wine, is anybody against this idea? Might be some objections to the limits they're putting on it. Well, the anticoagulants are the main ones. That you need to be very careful with. With any alcohol. What? I'm sorry. Yeah, you could eat grapes for sure. No.
So I think one of the benefits of the wine is the flavonoids. And so any brightly colored fruits and vegetables, so think like purples and like eggplant or grapes would be a good source of that, but also dark chocolate too. Flavonoids, yes.
Okay, let's see, what else? What's number 5? Okay, purpose. I really think this is important. The broad subject, not the particular bullet points as much, but I do think being a lifelong learner, that's a very, very positive thing. I just having people in your life, having purpose in your life, having things that help you get out of bed in the morning and know you're going to do something worthwhile. That when everybody knows being active is important, and then when you start talking about what kinds of activity are most important, well, we know the common ones: aerobic activities, that's walking and moving. Activity that you do because you love to do it, not because you ought to do it, not because someone thinks you should do it, but the things that make you more energized. I think broadly speaking, there are two kinds of activities. Those that are energy depleting, we can think of those. Anything that just exhausts you and wears you out. Now, it's one thing, it's part of it. Exercise, you get a little exhausted, but you know that it builds you up. But other things that just leave you depleted, don't waste a lot of time on that. Activities that replete your energy, there are a lot of them, and it's the things that really you love to do. That's what you ought to spend time on. All of us should. Yes. Hmm. Really? Mhm. But I don't know. I don't imagine you're the only person that feels this way. And if you pair up with another person that feels this way, you can probably avoid the subject altogether. I mean, I'm sorry. Her subject was that it's hard to escape conversations about all your infirmities and all your medical problems, and it makes her depressed, and she has to get off campus to avoid it. And I'm I'm not trying to make light of it. I understand. It's a realistic thing, but um, I think the answer is probably different for everyone. Yes, sir. Peanuts and cashews. Peanuts and cashews. Yes, they are. Yeah. Probably the one that gets bragged about the most for the most benefit is almonds. Of course. Walnuts probably too. Yeah. Yes. Hmm. The,
It didn't, and I would have to look up how far Okinawa was from Nagasaki and Hiroshima, because that would be the only one that I could think of that might be around anything like that. I don't know how far off the coast of Japan they truly are, if they would have any lasting effects from that incident.
hmm One of the things I remember, I don't know whether y'all read it in the book, but I remember on a film I saw about this, a video some years ago. They talked about how even in the most advanced ages in these cultures, people were staying in close contact with their longest lived companions, friends, close friends. Many of them having lifelong friends they were still seeing every day. Uh, even after 100. you know, I think companionship. I think um, we're social beings. We're social animals, and I think um, being active socially and engaged social, and that's another thing. And being involved in their communities, in with other people, was engagement. Is social engagement is what's often talked about in the gerontology literature. So.
I thought it was interesting. Taking the quiz, the longevity quiz on bluezones.com. Don't tell my wife, but I'm telling you this. But apparently she added 6 months of life expectancy to my life. So I think that just speaks to what Dr. Wright was talking about, of the closeness of people. It actually can you can watch at the top and it'll say plus 120, and it'll show you how many days you add or subtract to your life from certain things that you do. And it said, "Are you married?" And I said yes, and it gave me 120 extra days automatically.
Well, did it ask, "Are you happily married?"
That was the next question. So I thought it was also funny that being married and being happily married both could impact your longevity. So when I clicked next on the next one, I think it added 80 days. So I think it was like 200 days for being happily married was added to like the longevity of life.
I think we all would believe that.
I thought Sherry was going to say, don't tell my wife that it says we need a smaller house. That was interesting. Very interesting. Of course, that's something we do here. We're
Yeah.
close. We have, smaller places to live in.
Mhm.
We see each other a lot.
Did it use the word downsize? Did they ever downsize?
It didn't say that exactly, but essentially,
Yes, sir. Smart. Well, I complain about not being able to lose weight, but if our house invoked that serve and store rule, I'm done. I'm losing 20 in the next 3 months because it's the seconds and thirds that get me. True there. Okay. Good. Okay. Well, that sounds like an informed report. Okay. Anybody say anything about that? I'm sorry. Paraquat. Well, I think there are definitely some of these chemicals that have been proven to. I don't really think that's what you're talking about. Uh, you're not suggesting continuing using the bad ones, but that it anymore, right? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. And so certainly by the time it's distributed and delivered and as produce on the shelf, it's yeah, even by yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Planted question. She knows the answer to that. I know. I know. Yes. But they're fresh when you see them, right? Hmm. Would that still be the case? Here's our man from the industry. No, I know. I just wondered if he had insight into what you were talking about. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Well, I love this discussion. Maybe we need to start having the You and Your Health roundtable. Yeah. We're right at a point with I'll just have to tell you, because they finished this week and they're gone, and then I'm left to figure out the next topic. But now that we've been doing this for a couple of years, all the common medical topics that are of most interest, we've hit. We've not all of them, but I'm sure. But I've got to look pretty hard to find one we haven't already done. Now, some of them have been 2 years ago, so we could do it again. But I hate to start repeating a lot of things either. So we might start getting creative, do a roundtable. I love hearing from you guys. Okay, any final comments? Good work. Great. Yeah, they've got 2 more days here, and then they sprint out of here. No, they don't even have 2 more days. Tomorrow's Veterans Day, and UAMS gives them a day off. Look at that. I got to just tell you, and y'all have heard me say this, many of you, but they love being here at Butterfield Trail, and I'm so gratified by that, and I'm so gratified by the welcome you guys give them, and what a good learning experience it is for them. So thank you. You're doing a lot of teaching.